German codename for plan for invasion of Malta during the Second World War. Operation Herkules was the German codename given to an abortive plan for the invasion of Malta during the Second World War. Through air and sea landings, the Italians and Germans hoped to eliminate Malta as a British air and naval base and secure an uninterrupted flow of supplies across the Mediterranean Sea to Axis forces in Libya and Egypt. Extensive preparations were made for the invasion, but the success of other Axis operations, including the Battle of Gazala, the Axis capture of Tobruk on the 21st of June and Operation Ida, the pursuit of the Allies into Egypt, led to Hercules being postponed and then cancelled in November 1942. The Axis plan to invade Malta had its origin in Italian military studies conducted during the Second Italo-Abyssinian War in the mid-1930s. By 1938, Comando Supremo, the Italian Army General Staff, had estimated the amount of sea transport it would require to move military forces into North Africa, and identified the seizure of Malta as a prerequisite. Command of the airborne component of Hercules was given to Generalmajor Kurt Student and Fliegerkorps 11. Student had commanded the German airborne assault in the Battle of Crete in May 1941. Knowledge of British defensive positions on Malta was extensive, thanks to meticulous aerial mapping by the Italians. 10 Gruppen of Junkers Ju-52 transports, with 500 aircraft, were allocated for the air landings, along with 300 DFS-230 gliders and 200 larger Go-242 gliders. The aircraft were to drop one Italian and one German airborne division onto the southern side of the island. The paratroopers had to secure the high ground behind the invasion beaches and seize a nearby airfield for Axis transport aircraft to land another division and supplies. Airborne units for the invasion included the German Flieger Division 7 plus the Italian 1st Paratroopers Division and the airlanding 80th Infantry Division, La Spezia, approximately 29,000 airborne troops. The seaborne assault force comprised 70,000 Italian troops who were to make amphibious landings at 2 points on the southeastern side of the island, in Marsaxlokk Bay, the main effort falling upon a site named Famagosta Beach, and a smaller secondary landing at Larnaca Beach. Amphibious feints would be directed at St. Paul's Bay, Melaeha Bay and northwest of Valletta near the old Victoria lines, to draw British attention away from the real landing sites. The main assault convoy was scheduled to begin landing on Malta just before midnight on the first day, after the airborne forces had landed in the afternoon and secured the heights above the beaches. The bulk of the first wave assault troops would come from the 20th Infantry Division, Friuli, and the 4th Infantry Division, Livorno, of the Italian 30th Corps. The follow-up convoy would be mainly made up of troops from the Italian 16th Corps, the 26th Infantry Division, Assietta, the 54th Infantry Division, Napoli artillery units and the remainder of the 10th Armored Regiment. The 1st Infantry Division, Superga, plus a battalion of Blackshirts and 1,000 San Marco Marines were to be in position to land on the smaller island of Gozo in the early hours of the second day. Additional armor intended for Hercules included 2. Kompanie, Panzerabteilung Z. B. V.66, a German unit partly equipped with captured Russian tanks. At least 10 Italian Motozatere were modified with reinforced flooring and internal ramps to carry the Russian vehicles. 20 German Panzer III tanks were also offered for use in the invasion, but it is not known what unit these were to be drawn from. The plans to use Russian captured tanks was at some point abandoned and the tanks used on Malta were to be Italian. 2 days were allowed for the amphibious assault and landing of the follow-up convoy, though this was dependent on quickly securing Marsaxlokk Bay to land heavier artillery pieces and a much higher tonnage of supplies. Lacking enough landing craft for an amphibious assault, the Regia Marina secured plans from the German Kriegsmarine to build copies of the Marinefahrprum Type A in Italian shipyards. 20 German MFPs were transferred to the Mediterranean via the River Rhone to make up for an expected shortfall of Italian-built landing craft. German-operated landing craft were sent to Italy via rail for the invasion, including 12 Siebel ferries, 6 Type 39 Pioneer landings boot of cargo, 2 light vehicles or 45 infantry, unloaded via clamshell doors at the bow, 6 Type 40 Pioneer landings boot of cargo, 3 or 4 light vehicles or 80 to 90 fully equipped infantry, a company of 81 Sturmboot plus an assortment of large inflatable rafts. The Italians assembled a collection of other naval craft to transport the amphibious forces. The Italians also requested the use of 200 additional German Sturmboot to quickly transfer men from ship to shore. The Italian landing flotilla and the supporting ships formed the Special Naval Force. Specialized landing equipment slated for Hercules included the Seeschlange, a floating ship-to-shore bridge originally developed by the German Army for Operation Sea Lion. The Regia Marina had to protect the invasion convoys from attacks by the British Mediterranean Fleet and provide gunfire support during the landings. Italian and German submarines were to scout for and intercept British naval forces attempting to interfere with the seaborne landings. The Italians were confident they could defeat any daylight incursions by the Mediterranean Fleet, especially given the Luftwaffe's ability to dominate the daytime skies, but there were concerns the Italian fleet would face serious difficulties if the British attacked at night. A similar encounter off Malta might wreak havoc on the slow-moving Axis invasion convoys, leaving the airborne forces cut off and imperiling Axis chances of taking the island. By March 1942, the set had been delivered and installed, and a small group of Italian ratings had been trained in Germany on its use. These were reinforced in January 1942 by 4 cruiser Mki and 3 cruiser Mki-V tanks and a Vickers Mk. Victoria light tank, with the cruisers armed with 2-pounder guns. Field Marshal Erwin Rommel supported the Malta Plan and asked Hitler for command of the invasion forces. His reasons for supporting an invasion were to hinder the Allied troops fighting in Africa, as well as to remove the threat to the convoys heading to Italian-German forces with supplies, oil and men, all of which they lacked. The head of the Luftwaffe, Hermann Göring, opposed the invasion, fearing it would turn into another near disaster for his paratroops, as had happened in the invasion of Crete. With Hitler lacking faith in the parachute divisions after Crete and in the ability of the Italian Navy to protect the invasion fleet from British naval attacks, the plan was cancelled.